Hey, we're back. Ooh, and I just hit my funny bone. This is a great way to start. Anyways, yeah, so what did you think? Thunderstone Quest. This is your third gameplay, right?
Yep, my third game. I've never played a Thunderstone game in the past, but as soon as I played this the first time, I knew I wanted it. I, I'm a, I like to consider myself a veteran of deck building games because I play games like Legendary, Marvel, Alien. I have Valiant Comics, the deck building game, Clank, pretty much anything under the sun for deck building.
Yeah.
And just the quality, the gameplay, everything about this game is fantastic. Like Mike said in our gameplay, the only major problem I see is the consistency between the money on the cards and money in the town. And but that's just oversight on them. Maybe it's fixed in the second printing, maybe it's not. Who knows? But with the second printing, it's actually on Kickstarter right now. There's 14 days left.
Yeah.
It includes everything from the original Kickstarter and also includes solo and co op mode, which makes it a 1 to 6 player game.
Yeah.
So that is interesting and could
The
be fantastic.
yeah. And the base is only uh, 1 to 4 or 2 to 4?
2 to 4.
Yeah, it doesn't solo, but bringing the base game down to 4 is an improvement on Advance, because a 5 player game of Advance would go on for way too long. Our playthrough took a total of about 2.5,
About 2.5 hours.
maybe 2 and 3/4. Um, so it depends on your mileage, how fast your game group plays, but the higher player count with Advance really slowed it down and took away from the enjoyment of the game. Um, so, what do you think about the theme? I mean, this is a bit of a bog standard fantasy, but uh, me personally, I'm a fantasy fan. I played D&D when I was young, and so I enjoy almost anything with fantasy. I like that Thunderstone has their own fantasy world that they've created with the Thunderstone series. So I really enjoy that a lot with the differences it brings versus typical standard.
Yeah, it's fantastic. The art is
Mm,
amazing.
yeah,
Iconography is really easy to pick up, and I got nothing bad to say about the game.
yeah.
I love it.
And one upgrade from Advance is there used to be a border, and they've gone borderless. So it adds a lot more to the artwork. Doesn't infringe on it. I think that's a good design choice as far as card games go. Is getting rid of the borders. They're not really benefiting. Um, let's see what else.
And there's a miniature painter. It has a lot of awesome looking miniatures.
Yeah, yeah, and these are purely cosmetic,
Cosmetic.
because the only thing they're used for is indicating whether you're what location in the village you're at or what room you're in the dungeon. So something like a little yellow meeple could do the same thing, but obviously with the stretch goals from the first campaign, they added the minis, and it's a nice addition, especially for the price tag. Um,
The
what do you?
guilds and the side quests for the game give it a really nice flavor to it.
Mhm.
More theme. I mean, I went mage because I decided to be the
Mhm.
mage type character. I built my deck around that,
Yeah,
and ultimately it won me the game.
yeah,
And it was a really close game, 82 to 80.
yeah.
So
which is tight.
Really tight.
Yeah, I haven't seen too many games get that close, but it really depends if you have people learning. If someone's learning, they're not going to see how the mechanics flow together. Um, as we mentioned in our playthrough, we played one of the quests. A lot of people like to go the random route, or people prefer the epic variant. Uh, I find the quests are really good because there's built-in synergy with what your options are with the heroes and the weapons and spells and items that are on the board. I really like that about the design. And components wise, you're going to get a lot in this box. Well, I'll show you it off a little bit. It's heavy. But if you do go for the Champion Pledge, that's what you're looking at. And those are sleeved. So it's takes about 2,000 sleeves, which is ridiculous. But your longevity, replayability, and the variability in the game. This is the quest book, just to give you a quick sort of overview. Each set of these 2 pages is a gameplay, thematic gameplay with a lot of flavor text. And yeah, there's a lot in here. There's a bunch of chapters. It's well written. I've played through the first chapter and probably second chapter, half of the second chapter. It's really good. I mean, these dice are barely used, but they're gorgeous. They've got that perloid swirl, I believe. Really nice. The wood tokens are a nice upgrade. I do have one gripe. As Jordan hasn't played Advance, he won't have any experience with this. But if you've played Thunderstone Advance, keep your tokens, because the Thunderstone shards in that game were nice plastic minis with a lot of detail, especially if you compare the artwork, like with the base Thunderstone card. The mini tokens in Advance were highly detailed, like the artwork is. In fact, even more detailed than this artwork. But these little wood tokens are just kind of a disappointment in that regard. But if you haven't played Advance, you have nothing to be disappointed on that front, because these function perfectly fine.
Also, with the current Kickstarter, you'll be getting not only the original components from the first print,
Yeah.
but you're also getting stretch goals from the current one, which has a metric ton of cards.
Yeah. I backed the first Kickstarter for Quest, so I'm going to be backing just for the Barricades expansion. So if you're like me, the Barricades expansion, you'll get the stretch goals from the second Kickstarter, whereas everyone who's backing in this campaign will get all the stretch goals from the first. And one nice thing they've done is that if you get the sort of the all-in pledge, which is $150 US, you're gonna get the epic variant included in with the base game. I have the epic variant in the box, so take that into mind with what I showed you. And this is also the epic variant. All it is just cards, one of every card with dividers, so that you can separate them and have them to the side. One thing I found with the box size, with everything sleeved, with the sleeves you can get through the campaign, which are a great deal. It's $15 for 500 sleeves, and they're good quality sleeves. Although there's a bit of a margin of error on them, which that's fair because they're bottom dollar for a good quality, a thick sleeve, not a paper thin. And the one problem I have with the Barricades expansion is that I don't know where I'm going to fit it with everything sleeved. So, but that's a problem for down the road. But do keep that in mind. There is extra space in the upper tray though. So like the minis come with a molded case to put them in. You could probably toss the plastic and shuffle them in somehow there, bag them.
Cool.
Yeah, that's components. So mechanics, it's a deck builder. The one thing that's always separated Thunderstone is leveling up your heroes. That's a nice addition that other deck builders don't really have, that Thunderstone has always brought to the table, and it's been one of its hallmarks. Really adds to the theme, the fantasy. and it gives you that sense that like you're getting better, your party's getting stronger. Um, what did you think of some of the mechanics?
Um, yeah, the leveling up is fantastic. It makes it seem similar to D&D, as in you're leveling up your character, leveling up your party. You're gaining equipment either through treasures or the various magic and item and weapons.
Mm-hmm.
It's really brings out the theme.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and a lot of the changes from Advanced to Quest are in the village, and that adds a lot of great choices as a player. The bazaar lets you get the tokens. The tokens are also new as a new mechanic in that you can spend them as resources for when you're in the dungeon. If you need a little extra light, this is great that this is handled this way because before you could just get bad draws and never have the light to kill the monsters you wanted. Here you can intentionally build it up, or you can get potions. Uh, the iron rations are really cool as well because they'll give you the skill to equip weapons that your heroes don't normally have. And the potions and the new wound system, that the more wounds you take, the smaller your hand is an awesome change from advance because you do get an ebb and flow of like, if you're dominating the game and you're ahead of your opponents and you're fighting off those level 3 monsters, well, you're taking wounds. So you're going to have to take turns in the village, even if your deck's humming along. You still got to get the good cards into your hands. So it creates a nice change of rhythm to the game. And um, what did you think of the dungeon style? Um,
Dungeon is very thematic. You have your standard wilderness, going out to face something small initially,
right.
then you have to progress through the dungeon to try and face on greater challenges. Each room has a different effect, different rewards. Each of the monsters uh, have different abilities which can hinder or make things better for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's just amazing.
Yeah. Um, one of my, being an advanced player, one of my small gripes about the change, and this had more to do with the hype from the original campaign, is that the dungeon was made out to be just like this epic and adventure feel. Uh, but changing from advanced to quest, in advanced there was just a row, and it was the monsters come out, and if you kill them, they slide down. So they slowly come sort of out
So
of the
similar
dungeon.
like how they come out in Legendary.
Yeah, yeah, a bit similar. Um, to compare it with the way the board is set up here, they would come out at the level 3, and then they would make their way up to the wilderness where they're easier to kill. But everything was set like this is 2 light, this is 4, this is 6. The other thing is that if you didn't have the light, you had to overcome it with extra attack, um, which it was fine. Like Advance is a good game on its own; it stands completely on its own. If you get a hold of it, or if you just have a copy, it's perfectly fine. Um, this has more variety, more options, more theme because the different rooms have different effects, as Jordan said. But it doesn't quite have that adventure feel that was really sort of pumped by the first campaign. So I was a little underwhelmed by that, but this is still a much better system. There's a lot of variety of choice. And I haven't done it yet, but I've been thinking of adding my own variant of randomly drawing the rooms out. Since you can do the random draw of setup, why not randomize the rooms? And I was even thinking that like the monsters would stay hidden and you draw them when you're in that room, just to give it sort of that encounter kind of feel.
That would be cool.
Yeah, I think it would be really cool, but the effects of when the monsters come out might kind of really mess with the mechanics in that way.
Mm,
Cause
not really.
yeah,
because there were some monsters in our game that came out right off the bat that the effects weren't triggered or we didn't trigger them.
Well, that is the one rule as the setup is any arrival effects are not taken into account to start the game. But
So in your variant, it would then trigger those abilities, which obviously would be detrimental at the time, but it's also
sorry about that. That's my phone saying it's late. Go ahead.
it would build up the challenge more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because especially, I mean, some didn't really affect us because it was destroying items or spells in the village, which I really dug the theme of that because they were ogres, right?
Yeah.
And trolls, and they're destroying the village. I mean, it's perfect. Uh, but it would be weird because what was the one we had to destroy cards or discard cards? Oh no, it was randomly discard a card from hand.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah, that probably wouldn't hinder you too much. I think that actually probably add to the surprise of the game. Yeah, so probably wouldn't break the game.
My only other gripe about the game is the Guardian. Is because if he's not required to kill, you're almost better off going after one of the higher level rooms to face off against something that'll give you much more experience.
Mm-hmm. And that as well as a complaint of mine, because the Thunderstone Bearer is only worth as many Thunderstone shards or endgame points as there are keys. I mean, you could play a longer game so you get more keys, so they're worth more, but they should sort of automatically be worth more. It should be number of keys plus 2 or something.
I think barricades might actually fix that.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on it, but I think it gives you more keys
Yeah.
to add to the game and
that it does.
increase the value, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, with I was already thinking as well with barricades. In a standard quest setup, you only take one monster type. I was thinking with the barricades of adding more keys, I would put say 2 monster types in each room, so that would give you just more variety of what you're fighting. But as Jordan mentioned, yeah, you could add more keys to your game and maybe not increase the monsters, and so then there's just a lot of keys in the decks, so they come out more, and then you could just set a higher threshold to trigger the end game. That way, the Thunderstone Bearer is worth, punching his grill in. But as it stands with the rule books, I think every single game I've played, it's better to go kill a level 3 monster because the Thunderstone Bearer is just not worth it and not necessarily that tough either. So complexity and weight. I mean, we're both experienced gamers. I was hoping to get someone else who would be less experienced to kind of speak to how complex it is. What's your first impressions? Because you played Quest without any background.
The leveling up certainly had its own learning curve, which wasn't too hard to grasp, but it's also a very, very good addition to the deck building mechanics, and I would recommend it to anyone.
As far as complexity goes, it's more of a complex deck builder and game than other deck builders. Typically, you can kind of see the complexity or weight levels of a deck builder with how many resources there are. So in Thunderstone, there's the money resources, which you buy cards with, but you also have the tokens, which are a bit of a resource, but mainly it's the attacks. But you do have 2 different attacks, so theoretically you have 3 different main resource types. The magic purple sort of pink versus the green physical is a nice change. Advance has the same stuff in it, but with this, there's different resistances. So like monstrous health is in the center, and then resistance is on the outside of the ring, and that adds a nice thematic decisions. But it is a slight bit more complex. So this is not an entry level deck builder by any means.
Certainly not.
Yeah, but it's not that heavy. Like I wouldn't give it a 3 out of 5 for complexity, but it's more than a solid 2, maybe like a 2.5. I'm not sure what the average is on BGG as of yet, but it's got some weight to it, but it's not too heavy or too bogged down.
Yeah.
Learning curve. This wasn't your first game, but I did teach it to you, a couple months ago.
Yeah, quite a few months ago.
What did you think of the learning curve in that first game?
Wasn't too difficult. Like I've played other deck building games since then that were more difficult, like Path and Light and Shadow,
Yeah.
which I had a bit of a problem with its learning curve initially. Still need to play more games, but it's got sort of the same leveling up mechanic.
Yeah.
And the this one is a lot easier than that, and I grasped it pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mentioned this in the live playthrough, but the player boards, I'll give you guys a close-up of this, because this is a great addition. The turn summaries are on the bottom of the player board, so you get to see exactly what you need to do. I said it before, but basically you can play the game with this summary. The details otherwise are not that much more complex, especially if you've played deck builders before where there's resources and economy to the game of buying cards and whatnot. But this summary is great.
Yeah, the player aids are fantastic. Really helps in bringing new players into the game.
Yeah. Downtime is next. We only played 2-player, so I think Thunderstone hums best at probably 2, because there's little to no downtime.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we've played. Did we play 4-player?
Yep,
Yeah.
we've played all player counts,
Yeah.
2 to 4.
What did you think of the downtime in a 4-player game?
It really depends on the players for sure.
That's true, yeah.
Whether they're strategizing or struggling with some of the stuff. But I think the downtime is not too bad, and game plays fairly quickly.
Yeah, for the depth of the game you're getting, the amount of theme, how to describe it, just that, I don't know, I love the whole building your forces, building your guys up, getting that highest level of fighter, rogue, or wizard is just really rewarding and enriching, especially you get to take them into the dungeon and watch them, kick ours.
Especially when you steal the highest level guys from your opponents.
Yeah, that's true. To go back to comparing Path of Light and Shadow, which is a great deck builder, but it's newer versus it's built upon some of what Thunderstone has. In it, you can level up, but there's only one of the highest levels in that one, so you really want to fight for those. But in Thunderstone, there's 2 of the 3rd level heroes, and that's really nice because even if one person gets it, like you can probably still get the other one. But trying to maximize those level 3s is really big strategic difference, which
especially when you have a card that says at the end of the game your level 3 heroes are worth double their printed experience value,
which is a ridiculous amount.
Crazy good.
Yeah, which gave you 15 extra points.
30.
30. You had 3 level 3s, right?
and they're worth 5
Five.
each.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
So it's an extra 15 on top of the
Oh,
15
yeah,
they're
I
already
guess.
worth. Yeah. And then I think I've already mentioned the longevity replayability. What do you think?
well, with all the quests, especially with more quests being added with the new Kickstarter,
Yeah.
plus having the option of going random,
That too.
I would say that this game has infinite replayability.
Mm-hmm. Especially with the epic variant, which, even though I'm an experienced advanced player and now quest player, I still haven't done the epic variant. Even though I do have the extra set of cards to pull it out easily. But yeah, this Thunderstone is a game that's got legs for as long as you want to play it.
Yeah.
It's pretty hard to get sick of this game.
One thing I remember from my watching of the Barricades game is not only is it co-op, but each of these locations on the map will eventually get blocked, which is going to make going to different locations on the map extremely hard, especially in a 4 or even up to 6 player game,
Mm-hmm.
because you're going to be fighting to go to the bazaar, going to the guild quarter to upgrade your guys, going to the temple to heal, or going to the shop to get those epic treasures.
Yeah.
It's going to be super difficult. You're going to have to really coordinate with your teammates
And,
to
and
see where you're going to end up going.
yeah, and just so you know, every town location has 4 spots. So yeah, in a 6-player game, those are going to get taken up pretty quick.
Especially when they're losing them.
Yeah. Cool. I mean, we've already heard your recommendation, but I have to agree. Thunderstone. I mean, obviously, it's a game I bought, and it's I'm gonna buy the expansion for it. Although I'm not a big cooperative player, the Barricades is still cool, and the Barricades in themselves are a bit of a semi-co-op, correct? Because I think like you're fighting to hold off the forces, this siege that's coming on the village, but also in the end game, whatever your total amount of Thunderstone shards is, who
I
wins.
haven't really remembered what all that works at,
Okay.
but
That is how the previous version of it wasn't called.
I think there
Barricades.
is a full co-op variant, probably. Like I said, I'm gonna have to look at the rule book or
Yeah.
watch the video again, but it's supposed to be geared more to solo and co-op play.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but yeah, so check out the Kickstarter page for that. We're not too certain of the details, but it's a definite full co-op. You could probably still play with the previous twist, which in the earlier advanced expansion, it was that you were all fending off the village from a horde that was sort of slowly marching down. And at the end of it, I mean, everyone won, but whoever had the most Thunderstone shards in their deck from the monsters they killed, they won the game overall. So I mean, maybe they tried to take that out to keep that sort of everyone
Maybe.
wins feeling. But
Like I said, as an avid deck building enthusiast, I have to get this game. So unfortunately, Mike, I'm not gonna be able to exclusively play your copy. But thanks for the invite and hosting at the Game Tower here. And
no problem.
it's been a great game.
Awesome. Glad you enjoyed it. And I hope you guys enjoyed at home. Expect more of these in the future. This is sort of the new format that I'm working towards, just to provide more content at a quicker production rate, because editing is a time consumer, especially when your laptop's broken down in the shop. But yeah, hit subscribe, smash the bell, and give us a like. Uh, People might say, "Oh, support me on Patreon." What could be better than that is share this video, tell your friends, and yeah, let people know if you like what the channel's about. Spread it around. Also, Jordan has his own page on Facebook. He's also on Instagram under Stormquiver. And
Yeah, Stormquiver Studios on Facebook.
Yeah.
And Stormquiver on Instagram. Stormquiver on Board Game Geek. So look me up.
Yeah, he does amazing paint jobs as well, so you'll get to see a lot of that if you check out the studios.
I also stream on Twitch occasionally.
Yeah.
So
Maybe we'll have to
see
get
you when I
game.
see you.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to get a... Ooh.